Okay, so in this section, I will be looking at the features of Vim and Emacs. It is in this section that I will actually show you what they look like. I will not be comparing these features though. That's all for the next section. And I will not be giving a comprehensive tutorial on how to use these features. So if you're looking for that sort of a tutorial, I recommend just looking on YouTube, just going to articles on Google, because there are many really, really good resources there. A final note, I will be looking down at my keyboard quite a lot in this section because I will be demonstrating these features. So there are still keys on my keyboard I cannot touch type comfortably, so I have to look down for those. But yeah, that's why I will be looking down. It's not because the ground or my feet are very interesting, it's just because I'm looking at my keyboard or having to. Good, now all that is out the way, we can get started. So the first part is this language and terminology. I think if you do not understand these concepts, you will have quite a hard time understanding what I will say about Vim and Emacs, especially when I go into the demonstration. Now, a buffer. First of all, a buffer is an allocated bit of memory that holds a file or specific interface, like a terminal that can be invoked in the editor. So whether it's a file you're editing, or a terminal or file manager that you have invoked within the editor, Vim or Emacs will treat that thing as a buffer. And a buffer is just a segment of memory to store the relevant bits of data for that thing. Therefore, if you're editing a file, what you're actually doing is editing a buffer. And if you write that buffer to a disk, you have saved that buffer to a file. Well, you've saved the file, basically. Apologies, just had to clear my throat. So, yeah, that's a buffer. Windows. Now, a window is different to what we know Windows to be now, because Vim and Emacs come from a time where they did not have graphical windows, graphical objects. They didn't have graphical interfaces to their computers. They just had terminals and keyboards. That's it. They didn't even have mice here. So yeah. Therefore, a window means, in Vim and Emacs terminology, something quite different. A window is just a viewport to a buffer. If you have one window open and you are viewing a buffer, you can choose in that window to switch buffers, right? You can choose this one or that one or that one, but you're using the same viewport, the same window. Okay, so it's basically like a telescope, and you're looking at the landscape. You have one telescope and you're looking at one mountain. You can change buffers or look at another mountain. It's the same thing, it's just a viewport. Okay. You can also split windows though, so you can have two windows next to each other or above and below each other, doesn't matter, but you can do that kind of splitting of windows in any way you like, so you can arrange things as you like, and you can also view different buffers from different windows, or you can view the same buffer in all of the windows, which would be a bit weird, but you can do. There must be some sort of use case for it, but you can do it. A window is just an arbitrary viewport that you can use to view a buffer. Good. Next, we have key bindings. Now, I said before they didn't really have mice or graphical interfaces for their computers, so key bindings were the only sort of effective way to invoke specific actions quickly on their computers in general, really. So for Vim and Emacs in particular, there are very unique schemes for key bindings on each program, but they all do the same thing. They all aim to give you access to several bits of, or several actions, several motions, movements of the cursor, that sort of thing, very quickly. So when you can use key bindings in Vim and Emacs, well, you're basically using about 70% of what Vim and Emacs are all about. Because key bindings, well, yeah, they're probably the main thing about Vim and Emacs, at least in terms of usage, right? Because you interface with Vim and Emacs primarily through key bindings anyway. So like in terms of using Vim and Emacs, key bindings are well, okay, I said 70% before, but I don't know, maybe it's more, but around 70% of the whole story is key bindings. So very, very important. Next and finally, we have the concept of plugins and packages. Now, Vim and Emacs both are able to... No, sorry. Vim and Emacs both give you the ability to install other things on top of them. Things that offer functionality that by default Vim and Emacs do not have. It's just here that Vim calls these elements, these installable elements, plugins, and Emacs calls them packages. But they're basically the same thing. Locally installed elements that you can use to add functionality that is not there by default. Okay, so now all of that is covered, I think we can actually get started in looking at what the features of Vim and Emacs are. First of all, we have Vim. So I'm going to open Vim, first of all, in a terminal. So if I type vim-u none, this will invoke Vim without loading any initialization file. Because I have my own configuration of Vim, if I were to just bring Vim up, it will look slightly different to what you would see if you're starting Vim for the first time. So this is what you should see. It comes up first with a message saying this is Vim, it's VI improved, you got a version number, you have the fact that it's made by Bram Moolenaar, and it's worth noting Bram Moolenaar has unfortunately passed away, I believe it was in 2023, and so yeah, it's someone else at the moment that is heading the Vim project, but Bram Moolenaar, who is the original creator of Vim, he has passed away, unfortunately. And yeah, you got a couple of other bits of information. This is just because, yeah, I'm running Debian, so it's the Debian sort of Vim team that has packaged this version of Vim. And you got a note saying it's open source and freely distributable, which is always pretty good. Now, I did talk about Bram Moolenaar before. He was very passionate about charity work, and in particular this charity that operates in Uganda to help children. He made Vim as a kind of charityware, so therefore this charity, information about this charity is kind of embedded in Vim, but I find it quite nice. It's a personal touch that Bram made on this piece of software. And in a time where you have all these large corporations making very sort of cold bits of software that even you just want to use and abuse, it's nice to have a program that actually reminds you that someone made it. And that's, yeah, this message, just having this message here is quite nice. And not least the fact that it is aimed at getting you to yeah, help these people, right? Help these people in Uganda. So yeah, I think it's a nice element of Vim that, yeah, I don't know, it highlights the human aspect of making programs in general, which is not easily visible elsewhere. And that's probably why I like it so much. But yeah, in either case, if you are actually interested in helping these children in Uganda, you can type this help command to get more information about the charity. Really good. Okay. Below this now, you have more information about the sort of usage of Vim. First of all, you have a command to exit it, which is :q. You have the help command, which is :help. You have version info as well, but yeah, that's not really important for us. Finally, this, which is actually quite important for us, is all about the VI compatibility aspect of Vim. Now, because of the way I started Vim with the -u none argument, I've actually started Vim in VI compatible mode, and I can check this by running set nocp ? To query this setting variable, I guess you'd call it, and it returns compatible. So technically, I am running a strict VI clone in Vim, or I'm running Vim as a strict VI clone. So I have zero access to all the unique features of Vim that adds on top of VI. So to change that, what I want to do is :set no CP, and in doing so, I will, well, first of all, get rid of the welcome screen, but also now have full access to all the Vim commands, which is what we want. Okay, the first thing I probably want to outline is the writing of a file. So what Vim does by default when you start it up is you are in an empty file. It is not saved or written to disk. So to do that, you can do :w and provide the file name. Let's provide it with .txt. Okay, it already exists, so I'm going to overwrite that. Do 1.txt. Good. So it's written now. It's just a blank file. And so I've saved that file. Okay, good. So what I have now is a buffer in one window that is tied to the file 1.txt. In fact, this buffer is in its entirety 1.txt. It's a copy of that file that is written on disk now, which is just blank. If I make any edits to this file, it will be in the buffer. It will not be saved to disk. I will be editing the buffer. Therefore, I have to write the contents of the buffer to disk again in order to actually save the file. Okay, so if a file already exists, actually, I can access it by doing :E and then giving the file name. I'll probably touch on that a bit later. But for now, we have a file. It's written to disk, and I can get started on showing you the main features of Vim. First thing, the modes. Vim is a modal editor. There are 3 major modes and a couple of other modes, but the 3 major modes are 1, normal, 2, insert mode, 3, command mode. There we go. Sorry, had a bit of a lapse there. So 1, normal mode, 2, insert mode, 3, command mode. Okay. Normal mode is the default mode you land in when Vim starts. So if I press any key, it will invoke a key binding or command. It will not type a character into the file or buffer. So if I actually want to type text in a buffer, I have to go into insert mode. To do that, I press I in normal mode, which is the command to invoke insert mode. So I will press the key I now, and you can see bottom left, insert. Good, I know I'm in insert mode now. So now I can type text. It's all normal. Whoops, I pressed the arrow key by accident. Yep, good. Lovely, we have text. Okay, I'm just going to zoom in a bit. There we go. You can see that a bit better now. Okie dokie. So that's insert mode. Command mode is everything that, command mode gives you access to pretty much any special Vim command. Now, the way you access command mode from normal mode is using : So in the welcome screen, we saw :Q, help. And I also just did :W to write the file. Okay. So this is command mode. You can do commands like write, which writes a file. Shortened, it's W. That's why it saves a file. I can also do :E to edit a new file, right? I can also just type edit, and I can actually bring up a file I think that already exists, and that's 2.txt. Oh, hang on. Oh yeah, I have to save this buffer before I can switch to another one. That's the default behavior in Vim. So if I edit 2.txt now, this is what's here, and it was here from a previous edit. So now I have 2 buffers open technically, but I will touch on buffer management and navigation a bit later. But I'm now in 2.txt. Okay. Again, one window, different buffer, but the other buffer still exists. 1.txt still exists as a buffer in Vim. Good. Okay, so that's command mode. You can also do commands like listing buffers, which is ls. You can, what else can you do? You can, oh yeah, the file manager is invoked by doing explore, and the terminal is invoked by doing term. So you have a bunch of commands in command mode. Okay. The other commands, or sorry, the other modes include visual, visual line mode, and visual block mode. They are all different ways of selecting text. If I start visual mode by pressing V from normal mode, you'll see nothing happens, but in the bottom left, it tells me I'm in visual mode. So if I go right or down, you will see I'm selecting more and more text, and I can move back to unselect the text. It's like moving whilst having shift held down in a regular modern text editor. Okay, so that's visual mode. Visual line mode is the same concept, but using lines instead of individual characters as the unit of selection. So if you know you just want to select lines to act on them, you can go straight to visual line mode to do that. Next, visual block mode is similar, except you're acting on blocks of text, right? Rectangles of text. And this is very useful for data that is in columns, text that is in columns and rows, that sort of thing. Okay. Visual mode you access by pressing V. Visual line mode you access by pressing capital V, Shift V in other terms, or in other words. And visual block mode you access with Control V. So V, visual mode, Shift V, visual line mode, Control V is visual block mode. Running through all the modes again, normal mode is what you get by default, but to escape back into normal mode from any other mode, you press escape. So if I'm in insert mode like now and I type text, I press escape to get back into normal mode. Good. I for insert mode, and colon for command mode, V for visual mode, capital V for visual line mode, and Control V for visual block mode. Okay, I might have repeated myself a bit there, but I really want to make it nice and clear because the modes of Vim is really the foundation of everything else. Okay, so those are the modes. Good, 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 good. What else do I have noted down? Yeah, everything. Okay, I've covered that stuff. Good. Now we can actually move on to the motions and sort of commands in Vim. There are motions, commands, and text objects in Vim. A motion is basically what you use to navigate your cursor within a file. A command is what you use to edit either something that you've already selected with visual line mode, or you can edit using a command by supplying that command with a motion or a text object. And finally, a text object is a collection. No. Text objects are collections of easily accessible shortcuts that allow you to act on discrete parts of text. For example, paragraphs or words or stuff inside brackets, regardless of where you are in that object. Okay, all this will become clear as I give examples. Motions. The sort of key motions in Vim are left, right, up, and down. That's left is H, J is down, K is up, and L is right. Oh, I'm on a line that is just one character, so you can't see me move right. There we go. So if I just go down into this paragraph here, that's 3 lines long, I have left, which is H, down, which is J, up, which is K, and right, which is L. Okay. You might be thinking this is ridiculous. Why are letters arrow keys? Well, this will all become clear. When we look at the original keyboard, actually, that VI was developed on, but in this sort of context, actually, in normal mode, it saves you having to move your hand to the arrow keys. Because in normal mode, you would be typing commands, other motions, and your hands would want to be kind of on the home row. The home row in touch typing terms is the sort of JKL semicolon keys with your 4 fingers and the FDSA keys with your left 4 fingers. And so you really want to be there most of the time just for efficiency. Although, that being said, if you're very quick with the arrow keys, it doesn't really matter in the end, but it does mean you don't have to move to the arrow keys to access these movements. Okay. Next, we have movement between words. So to move between words, you have 3 commands, E, B, and W. E moves you to the end of the current word, if you're on a word, like here. If I type E, I go to the end of the word, or the end of the next word. Okay, B takes you backwards to the beginning of the current word that you're on, like now. So I'm in the middle of a word, I type B, I go to the beginning of it, or if you're there already, it takes you to the beginning of the previous word. So that's E and B. Now, W is similar to E, except you're going to the beginning of the next word. Okay, so E, B, W. E for the end of the word, B to go back to the previous word or the beginning of the previous word, and W to go to the beginning of the next word. Hence EWB. It might be a bit of a stretch with W because it just seems to stand for word, but still, there is a way to remember it in that using those words, right? Go to the beginning of the next word, go back to the previous word or the beginning of the previous word, and then finally go to the end of the next word, right? So there are ways to remember these key bindings. Next, we have 0 and $. These are line sort of movements. So to go to the end of a line, you type $. To go to the beginning, you type 0. $0, $0, $0. Okay, pretty straightforward. The reason is I think that there are... No, is it regular expressions? Yeah, I think in regular expressions or some other context, I can't remember what. I don't think it's regular expressions, actually. It's somewhere. Basically, where $sign represents the end of a line and 0 represents the beginning of a line, I think. But in any case, 0 makes sense. You're like on the 0th column of the line. $sign, I think, somewhere means end of the line or represents the end of a line and allows you to operate in a regular expression sort of way on the end of a line. But here in Vim, they become the key bindings to go to the beginning and end of a line respectively. 0 and $sign. Okay, good. Next we have movement between paragraphs. Now, a paragraph is any bit of text surrounded by a blank line or more than one blank line. If I type close curly brace, sorry, I was going to say square brace, close curly brace, I will go forward one paragraph. If I type open curly brace, I will go back one paragraph. If I type close parentheses, I will go forward between paragraphs, but also jumping to the end of paragraphs. And if I type open parentheses, I'll be going to the beginning or the previous paragraph, right? But I will kind of be jumping between the blank lines as well. So it's kind of less quicker than curly braces, but if that's the behavior, whoopsie daisy, if that's the behavior you want, then using parentheses might be the way. Anyway, so there's very similar behavior between parentheses and curly braces. I can't remember exactly the difference, but you will want to use one or the other in whatever context applies to you. Okay, next we have going to the beginning and end of the whole file. So to go to the beginning, that's GG. To to go to the end, that's capital G. So GG, big G, GG, big G, GG, big G. Okay, nothing special. Good, okay. The next thing I want to show you is about repetition. So you can repeat commands by prepending a number. If I want to go down 5 lines, I can press 5 and then J. So 5J. I'm now 5 lines down. If I want to go back up 5 lines, I can do 5K. If I want to go to the right, I don't know, 10 character units to the, to the right, then I can type 10 and then L. Yeah, that'll take me 10 to the right. Same thing for the left. I can go 10H, etc., etc. You can do this on any motion. If I want to go 2 words forward, that'll be 2E. If I want to go 4 words forward, I can go 4E, right? And then 4B, no, whoops, wrong button. I can go 4B again to go back 4 words. Okay. Therefore, with commands and motions, you can prepend numbers to repeat them n times, okay? This gets really, really handy in many situations, but yeah, it's a very neat trick. All of these sort of motions and commands, they're universal within Vim. This is why they're so powerful. It's because in Vim, it's like a whole ecosystem of key bindings, and you'll see this is the same with Emacs. But anyway, that's motions. And I guess the final motion I want to go through is that of scrolling. To scroll down half a page, you do Control D. To scroll up, it's Control U, half a page. So Control D is down half a page, Control U is up half a page, Control F is 1 full page down, like forward down, and Control B is backward 1 full page. So these are like page down, page up. And the other scroll commands are Control E to go down 1 line, and Control Y to go up 1 line at a time. So you're scrolling 1 line up and down, but the cursor remains on the same line. Okay, good. That's it for motions. Next we have commands. Now, I said before that to carry out a command or edit text using commands, you have to either have a section selected and then press a command, or give the command a motion or text object. So an example of a command is D. This is delete. If I want to delete the bit here that I will now select by pressing V, then going right 4 times, or yeah, 4 times, I have selected FUNC and the opening parentheses. If I now type D, it will delete that, everything that was selected. If I type U for undo, I will undo that change. And I can type Control R to redo that change if I wanted to. There is a whole sort of undo history and undo tree, I think they call it, within Vim, where each stage of your file edit is saved, and you can undo those changes and redo them and navigate that undo tree. Okay, so I visually selected a bit of text and deleted it. You can do the same thing with visual line mode and delete. I'll undo that now. And visual block mode, where I go down and select a block and then press delete, and it deletes that block. Okay, undo. So you can do that, or you can press D first and then give it a motion or text object. A motion, an example of a motion would be right 1, in which case it's deleted the F. Another motion would be D left 1, where it's deleted the U now because I just moved to the right 1 beforehand. Good. I can also press DJ to go down 1. So what that will do is delete this line and the line below, because it's as if I'm moving down, right? So DJ deletes the first 2 lines. I'll undo that. If I'm down here in this paragraph, I can DK to delete the line I'm on and the line above, right? Because it's like the motion going up, K. Okay, undo. I can also delete 3 down by doing D3J. And in that case, it deleted the whole paragraph. I can also do the same upwards, D3K, it will delete that stuff above it. I can do, I don't know, D100J, which will delete everything below that line, but because the file is not that big, it will basically delete everything after the cursor in the file. I'll undo that now. So you can put the numbers, I think, anywhere in that kind of sequence of key presses. So, well, either in the beginning or the middle, basically. So if I do 3DE, that will delete 3 words to the right. If I undo that and do sorry, did I do D3E or 3DE? I can't remember. But anyway, 3DE, undo, D3E, do the same thing, right? So you can put the number right at the beginning or just after the command. Doesn't matter, I think. So yeah, that's an example of using a command. You have to supply it with a motion, whether that's word motion or just single character motion or a line motion, like going down or up. And yeah, that's how you use a command. The final thing you can use with a command is a text object. So an example would be a paragraph. I can do D, I for in, and P for paragraph if I wanted to delete that whole paragraph. I can also do DA for around, P, to delete the paragraph and the blank lines around it. So if I undo that, you will see if I do DAP, the white line after it, I mixed blank line and white space together. But anyway, the blank line after the paragraph is gone. Therefore, it's as if the paragraph never existed. So here, if I do DIP, I've deleted inside the paragraph, which means the text is gone. But I've got 2 blank lines. If I undo that and then do DAP, I might have pressed another key, hang on. Yeah, DAP, I will delete the blank line that existed after it. And I can visually show you these text objects as well. If I do VIP, you can see it's selected inside the paragraph. If I escape now and do VAP, it's selected the paragraph, but also this blank line here, right? If I if I escape that and just repeat it again, if I do VAP, there we go. That's what's selected, including where my cursor is at, okay? That's including it. So I've selected the whole paragraph. I can then do D to delete that as well because it's selected text. I can just act on that text straight away with a command. Okay, so, okay. Text objects. That was one example. Paragraph. You also have word. So if I wanted to delete this word, I can do DI, again, I for in, it's always universal, I or A. DIW, delete in word. I can also do DAW, which deletes the blank spaces after the word as well. So DIW, undo, DAW, undo. Okay, hopefully you can see the difference. I've also got parentheses and braces text objects. So I'm going to go here and just get rid of that extra parentheses, and then I'm going to type DI open parenthesis. I've now just deleted everything in the parentheses straight away, just like that, from outside of the parentheses. That's pretty cool. However, I have to not already be in parentheses to delete stuff in parentheses if I only want to delete stuff in the next set of parentheses. So what I mean is this. If I have parentheses here and here as well, if I do DI open parentheses now, it will not delete the parentheses next. It will delete the parentheses, it will delete all that is in the parentheses in the current matching set of parentheses that my cursor is in. Okay, but you have to be in the set of parentheses if you want to delete that stuff. So if I move now into this inner set of parentheses and do DI open parentheses, I will do that. Okay, yeah, so that's it. If you are not within a designated text object already and you identify that text object and apply a command to it, whatever, it will operate on the next text object that it can see. So another example is curly braces. I'm not in or within curly braces at the moment. Therefore, if I do di curly brace, open curly brace, I will delete everything in the next instance of the curly brace text object. Then if I escape that, undo, I can also do all of that from inside the square braces. It's not square braces, curly braces. And it doesn't matter where I am. I can jump here and do di open curly brace, undo. I can jump to the bottom and go to the end of this second line and do di open curly brace. Same thing, doesn't matter. And that's really, really powerful. You don't have to worry about where your cursor is to delete the thing that you're in. Same thing applies to quotation marks. I can do di open quotes, or just quote mark, and it's gone. Same thing. This is not just for commands like delete. You can also have commands for yank. Now, yank in Vim is the same as copy. So if I do yank in, or yi, open curly brace, I have just yanked everything in these curly braces. And I can paste it here. Right? Pretty cool. I've just yanked it and I can paste it or put it, which is done by pressing P here. I will undo that and undo that. No, I'll redo that. Good. Okay, so you can yank text objects. You can also yank selections just like with delete, and I can yank that, go down, paste it, or put it here. And you can do that with the Y button and the P button, the Y key and P key. A note about putting text though, if you are wanting to paste on your cursor position or on the line you're on, you have to do capital P to do that, and lowercase p will put after the line you're on in this case. So if I undo all of that, and I can do yank in word, so it just yanked or copied that word, I can do P here. It will paste it or put it after my cursor. If I do capital P, it will paste it sort of on my cursor, right? Not after my cursor. That's why you have a group of Fs at the end here, because I've pasted it so many times. If I just paste it again here, you'll see that F is at the end. But each time I press capital P, it's pasting from the beginning of where my cursor starts. So that F is just being left there on the end each time I press paste or put, right? So that's the two different sort of putting commands or putting keys in Vim. Okay, so yank, put, we've done. We've also got C for change. So change is like delete, C is like D, except you are not only getting rid of the text, you're not only deleting it, you're also being put into insert mode automatically after that. So if I do CI open curly brace, I'm now in insert mode and can change that text object. I will escape now. Good. I can do that for any text object. CIP, I can now type a new paragraph. Escape. Okay. So all of these commands can be used universally with the same text objects in the same way with the same behavior. And that's what makes these key bindings super duper powerful. And yeah, that's it really. I can go on and it will be tempting to do so, but I think for the interests of time, I will leave it at that. Yeah, I think I've covered everything. I think I've covered pretty much everything. So these are all the basic sort of functions of Vim key bindings, all the basic Vim key bindings and the basic ideas behind them, right? We have motions, commands, and text objects. And in particular, text objects are incredibly powerful, I find. That's why really I use Vim a lot in programming, because you have a lot of these braces and quote marks, whatever. And operating on text objects can be quite natural, because in your mind you think, oh, let's delete the stuff in these braces, these curly brackets, no, curly braces. And the key presses for the text object is kind of like the same. It's like just DI open brace. You're kind of typing as you are thinking in the same way. So it's really quite powerful. And also the fact that you're able to keep your hands kind of on the keyboard in the same rough position is also quite nice. Okay. Yeah, so that's it. That's it. It also helps to look at the original keyboard that VI was developed on. So if I go in the Wikipedia article and show you the keyboard, here we go. You can see escape here is next to Q, where tab is now on modern keyboards. You can also see these arrow keys above or below H, J, K, and L. And this is why escape is the main key you press to get back into normal mode from any other mode. It's because here it was easily accessible. Now on modern computers, it's not really that easily accessible. It's in the top left and you have to kind of move your hand or stretch it. But this is why it was escape initially. Next, you have H, J, K, and L. This is why these are the cursor movements, the primary cursor movements in Vim. It's because this keyboard never had dedicated arrow keys. Therefore, when Bill Joy was making VI, he looked at this and was like, oh, that's pretty handy. We've got arrow keys here. Let's use that. So yeah, that's why we have H, J, K, and L for left, down, up, and right, respectively. So it just helps, I think, to put things in a bit of context. Good. Next, we have buffer and window management. You will remember that if I type ls to list all my buffers, I open two files. I have two buffers here. I have 1.txt and 2.txt. I am currently on 2.txt. I will probably have to write the changes that I've made by doing :W. Okay. I've done that. Now I can list the buffers again. And now I can switch between buffers. So right in the beginning, I created this new file that created a new buffer, but I haven't gone through how you switch buffers or delete them. The way you switch a buffer in Emacs is by pressing : to go into command mode, typing buffer, or in the shortened form, just B, and then either the numerical buffer identifier, which is in this case 1 or 3, but we're on this buffer, 2.txt, so we can't use 3, it'll just give us the same buffer. So you can give it a number for the numeric identifier of the buffer, or you can give it any portion of its name, any portion such that either you can tab complete it, or such that there is no other possible buffer it could be. So I can jump to buffer 1, like that. I'm in 1.txt. I can also jump to buffer 2.txt by saying 2.txt. I can also now jump back to buffer 1 by doing 1 dot, because there is no other buffer that has a file name 1 dot. Therefore, it will take me to 1.txt, even though that's not the full name. I can also do :B, let's say 1 tab, and it will, no, I'm already in 1, aren't I? So I can do 2 tab, and then hit enter. It will take me to 2.txt. Finally, I can also type :B space Control-D to give me a list of all the options, possible options for all the open buffers. I can also type tab sequentially to tab through all the options, right? Good. Okay, so I'm on 2, right? So if I do 1.txt, it will take me back to 1.txt. But actually, here's a good place to note. When you're in command mode, you can do Control-F to actually edit a command like you're in Vim. So I can use the Vim Motions, E, B, and I can like delete the whole line by pressing DD. And yeah, that's not very helpful, but anyway. And I can press Control-C to go back here. Okay, I actually didn't talk about line commands. When you repeat a command twice, usually that acts on the whole line. So, whoops daisy. If I go up here in this function, if I do YY, that yanks the whole line, and I can just paste it like that. Let's undo that. If I do DD, I can delete lines very quickly, and let's undo all that. And if I do CC, I will change the whole line, therefore deleting it and putting me in insert mode. Let's undo that. So yeah, PP does not do that. Yeah, and I just realized what I said there. But anyway, there are commands that if you press twice, they do not act on the line. So yeah, that's it. DD, CC, and YY. They act on the whole line very quickly and in a very neat sort of way. Good. So yeah, that was command mode, and we can now switch buffers quite nicely. That's pretty much it. If you want to delete a buffer, mind you, that's accessed by doing the bd command, buffer delete. I'm in buffer 2, and I don't think I made any, oh, I did make changes, didn't I? So let's just escape that, colon right. If I wanted to delete this buffer, I can do bd, and I think it would delete this buffer by default, but you can supply the name as well, right? So this is 2.txt, so I can do that, but I believe I can just do this, yeah, and it will delete that buffer. If I go :ls to list my buffers, it is not there. I think, I could be remembering wrong, but when I read in the Vim manual about this buffer delete command, I think technically speaking, the buffer still lives on and survives the deletion process somewhere in Vim. It's just not listed in the buffer. Sorry, it's not listed in the list of buffers, but it is hidden. I could be wrong. But in either case, if you want to delete a buffer, to the best of your knowledge, you can imagine it is actually deleted, because for all intents and purposes, the only reason you would delete a buffer is to clear your list of files you do not want to edit anymore. Because there's no harm in just keeping buffers open, unless you are really, really tight on resources. So, yeah. Anyway, let's escape that. So I am now on 1.txt. What about windows? So, to split a window, you do vsplit. Remember, this is one window that I'm in right now. Now I'm still in one window, but I have two windows. They're both viewing the same buffer. I can jump between windows by doing Control-W-L or Control-W-H, or if I have a window above or below, Control-W-J or Control-W-K. Doesn't do anything here because I don't have any window above or below. So I can horizontally split using the split command and show you that. So Control-W-J, Control-W-K, Control-W-L, Control-W-H. Yeah, H. So yeah, these are the basic window navigation commands. To change a buffer in a window, again, we can use the same commands I went through. :B, let's do 2. Oh, my bad, sorry, we're not editing 2.txt because we deleted that buffer. So I can do :E to actually edit that file as a new buffer, 2.txt, and here it is. Let's zoom out a bit to get a bit more text. You can also widen a window with Control-W greater than, but you can repeat that, Control-W10. I think I did 190 actually. One sec, let me just cancel that. Control-W10 greater than, right? So it does it repeatedly. Excuse me there. Yeah, it's going to be a long video, so bear with me if I'm kind of mixing up my words. Okay, good. So we can widen windows, split windows, that's all great. And we can delete windows or close a window by doing Command-Q. And I don't think there's any other way of doing it. I could be wrong. Maybe I would suggest Googling it, but basically doing Control, colon. Apologies if I did say command or control before. Colon. If I do :Q, I can quit, but only the window I'm on, right? But remember, the buffers still live on. If I do :ls, I will get the list of all the buffers I have, which are currently 1 and 2.txt. So that's really it for windows, to be honest. You can create windows by splitting them, or splitting the one window you are in by default into 2, and you can close or delete a window by issuing the quit command. Now, if you are in Vim and you have no pending changes to save, by closing this window, you close Vim, because you cannot have Vim without a window. So if I quit this window, I quit Vim. Okay. Good. Next, we have file navigation and terminal access. So I'm going to use my own configured Vim, which is Vim just using my personal vimrc file, which I'll talk about later. But it's the file that contains all my personalized settings that I want Vim to run every time it starts. Okay. So now I've done that. You'll see the colors look a bit different. I've changed the default color scheme because, you know, it's not great, but I can now show you the file manager and the terminal within Vim, because by starting Vim without loading any initialization script, I don't know why, but you can't access the file manager or the terminal, I think. No, maybe it's just the file manager. But anyway, the file manager in Vim is netrw. You invoke it by doing the explore command, capital E. But because the first sort of set of letters that are unique in this command are E and X, you can get away with just typing EX. And you can tab complete that if you want to explore. But because Vim has no other command that begins with E and X, with a capital E that is, then it already knows you want the explore command. In other words, the netrw file manager. So here it is. I am just viewing my home directory now. If I scroll down and up, it's just my home directory. It's all here, nothing special. And I can like stop showing dot files by doing GH to not show hidden files, and I can toggle that and stuff like that. I can copy, paste, whatever, right? It's a fully fledged file manager in Vim, and you can navigate the whole file using Vim commands. You can use GG to go to the beginning, capital G to go to the end, GG again, capital G. You get the picture, right? So yeah, that's it really. I mean, all the Vim commands are there for you. It's all uniform, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. If I hit enter now, oh, actually, let me just list the buffers. Yeah, okay, interesting. Okay, so I think it's a bit of a funny one. I don't think Vim technically treats netrw as a buffer. Yeah, I don't know how it treats netrw here. Because it's not listed as a buffer. It's a weird one. I guess because it's non-editable, maybe that's why. But anyway, if I hit enter, I will be going into 1.txt. If I now list my buffers by doing :ls, you'll see I've got one buffer, that's 1.txt. Press enter if I press enter to continue, and then do :ex, capital E, I'm back in netrw, and it saved the fact that I hid dot files. So it's the same instance of netrw that I've gotten back here. I think if I scroll down, and then I'm at the bottom now, if I go back to 1.txt and then go to explore into netrw, okay, it doesn't keep the same position, so it must not be a kind of buffer. But it still saves its kind of state in a way, so that's interesting. Anyway, it's more like a, I don't know, non-buffered window. If I quit this, I quit Vim, because it's still treating netrw or using netrw within its own window, and it's one window, therefore if I quit that one window, I quit Vim. And because the buffer I had open was saved, it quit Vim, right? It didn't complain. Good. Next is terminal access. If I go in Vim again and do the term command in command mode, I have brought a terminal up. It's in the top window. You can't really see the delimiter for the window, but these are two windows. This is the terminal, and this is my non-saved sort of text file below it that you get by default in Vim. Okay, good, escape. If I go up here into terminal, do : okay, interesting. Okay, if I go down actually and do ls. Okay, yeah, so it does treat a terminal as a buffer. So netrw by default does not seem to be treated as, technically speaking, a buffer, or at least a listable buffer, but terminal is. Okay, so right now I've got two windows, one above, one below, and the one above is running the terminal. And I can type commands, it's just a terminal, nothing special, right? So yeah, that's it. That's it. Now let's quit that, exclamation mark at the end to not save any changes, and we're good to go. So that's an introduction really, an overview of the fact that you can have a file manager or terminal access from within Vim. Finally, I will just touch on extensibility and customization. All that amounts to really is a special directory and a special file. So if I ls-a, you will see all my files in my home directory. I have vimrc and .vim. Sorry, .vimrc to be precise. If I tree my .vim folder or directory, you'll see it's just a bunch of directories that Vim auto loads if you add stuff inside of them. You can see here I've got papercolor.vim, that's just my color scheme, and I've got a little indentation file for assembly. It's just because Vim by default does not seem to have a good indentation scheme for assembly, if at all. So yeah, that's all I've got. I don't have any plugins, so that's why you're not seeing anything else, but yeah, that's it. So that's your .vim directory. Your .vimrc is really the primary aspect of your sort of Vim configuration. Now, let me just, oh, blimey, I'm using Emacs commands. Here we go, GG, there we go. Now, in this vimrc, I have a bunch of Vim script commands, or just like, you know, Vim setting commands that I have to set Vim the way I like it. I don't really do a lot. It's literally, how many lines is that? 37 lines of stuff. And if I do VIP, remember, it visually selects inside a paragraph. All this stuff and below is about my color scheme. And that big chunk there is just about changing the color of the line modes. Line numbers. So yeah, that's just all about colors. All the rest of the stuff is like, you know, I don't know, was it tabs, making tabs, spaces, doing incremental search, making sure this status line at the bottom shows the whole time, always, having a bit of a menu so that when I go in command mode and press tab, I kind of tab through visually shown options, and if I escape that, you know, it's all those sort of things, like small things, syntax highlighting, specifying how to indent stuff, yeah, but most of it, no, all of it really is just default settings that I'm changing. I don't use any external plugins beside those external files I showed you within my .vim directory. Okay, that's it. That's how you customize Vim. You just edit these files. You edit your vimrc file and you just add stuff into your .vim directory. And what you would add in here is basically plugins. So yeah, that's it. Okay, that's Emacs. Brilliant, well done for getting this far. It's quite long, but hopefully that's, well, I do think that's a brief overview of Vim, albeit not so brief. But anyway, next we have Emacs. If I go to the terminal again and show you Emacs, you can see that, first of all, well, not that you can see, I will show you that, first of all, Emacs can be invoked as a terminal application or a GUI, a GUI. This is it as a GUI. You can, I mean, first thing is that you are blinded by the light because for some reason they thought, yeah, default color scheme, let's go white background. Yeah, I don't know, bad decision, I think. But anyway, this is in a GUI, therefore I can kind of hold control and scroll in and scroll up and down to zoom in. I can actually display images in Emacs, right? That's this thing up here, and it's a link. I can click on it to go to www.gnu.org. And yeah, that's it. It has really good sort of mouse support and system clipboard support as a GUI interface, but I will show you how it looks like in the terminal. Okay, so to do that, I will do Emacs -q-nw. -q, by the way, just loads Emacs without my personal config file, without my initialization file. Good, so this is Emacs. It's got some better colors because the terminal has automatically got a black background, but still dark blue is not so great. So I am gonna just customize the theme. Yeah, there we go. To make it wheatgrass. Yeah, there we go. Good. So I'm gonna kill that buffer now, but yeah, here we go. So this is Emacs, welcome. So I can open a file by doing Control X, Control F. That is holding Control throughout the whole process. So Control X, Control F is not like Control X, let go, Control F, although it would probably do the same thing. You're just holding Control throughout. And that will bring up this dialog at the bottom to find a file. And I'm going to bring up the one.txt we edited before. And this is a buffer. This is a file buffer. Good. We're editing one.txt. The motions or navigation commands in Emacs differ to Vim, although they have the same basic idea, the same concepts, right? Moving one character at a time, lines at a time. Yeah. So anyway, to move forward one character is Control F. To move back one character, it's Control B. To move to the next line, that's Control N. To move back to the previous line, that's Control P. You will note that I'm using particular words here because these are ultimately key bindings, but they mirror the full kind of words that they represent, like forward one character, backward one character, next line, previous line, in a similar way to Vim, okay? So it's quite easily memorable or memorized. But yeah, so you got Control F, Control B, blah, blah, blah. That's, moving forward, up, down, one character. Next, we have moving to the beginning and end of a line. That is Control A and Control E. Yeah, I talked about actually, kind of key bindings being short for full kind of words. I don't know what A stands for. E must stand for end of a line, right? But A, I don't know. So there are exceptions. But anyway, Control A to go to the beginning, Control E to go to the end. And what else do we have? We have now word navigation. Meta B instead of Control B takes you back one word. And also to the beginning of a previous word, right? Meta F does the same, but forward. So forward words. And bear in mind, when I use Alt or Meta, I mean the same key. That is usually on modern keyboards, Alt. On a MacBook or, Mac OS, it would probably be Meta, I think. But yeah, Meta and Alt are the same thing in Emacs. Other commands include for navigation, that is Control... No, sorry, we've done that. Just have my notes here. So, yeah. Meta Shift less than sign. So Alt Shift less than to go to the beginning of a file, and Meta Shift greater than or Alt Shift greater than to go to the end of a file. Before or beginning here, end. Beginning, end, beginning, end, beginning, end, right? That's it for beginning and end of a file. It might be a bit odd to be typing all these key chords, but you get used to it very quickly. Finally, I think in the navigation set of commands in Emacs, you have scrolling. That's just Control V and Meta V. And if I zoom in on my terminal here, I can show you that a bit with it actually scrolling through text. Control V takes you down. And if I try to do it more, it will say end of buffer because I'm at the end of the buffer. If I do Alt V, it'll take me up. And I think it's, about one full page it takes you up and down when you use Control V or Alt V. Okay, so that's it for navigation really. There are a couple of other navigation commands like jumping between paragraphs. I think that's Meta Shift open curly brace. Yeah. And close curly brace. Yeah. And I think that's it, really. I don't think there are any other motion commands, or navigation commands, but yeah, that's it. Under the hood, it's really good to remember these commands, these key bindings, are represented by macros. In fact, key bindings are just bound to Emacs macros or macros commands. I'm not sure what you would call them exactly, but I think macros is the right word. But Alt X or Meta X invokes the sort of command intake or the space where you can specify an explicit macro by naming it. So my cursor now is here. If I, first of all, do Alt X, I will be in this prompt. In this prompt, I can specify a macro or Emacs command sort of thing. So For example, forward char. That moves me forward, one char, one character. And it also said there that I can use Control F to do the same thing, because it's long to do this. In other words, really, what's happening under the hood is that Emacs has keybound Control F to the macro named forward char. And it's the same with backward char. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, same thing with like next line, previous line, next word, previous word. It's all under the hood, these explicit macros that are then keybound to key bindings. So there are distinct sort of layers of, I don't know, action calling in Emacs that makes it a lot, well, quite customizable. In fact, very customizable, because that means you can, in a very easy way, unhook the key binding for a specific action and put it on another key binding. So you can, if you want, very easily do Control, I don't know, R to go forward, or Control T to go backward if you wanted to, for whatever reason. Another couple commands worth noting is the undo command. If I type stuff, whoopsie daisy. If I type stuff now, I can do Control X and then U. So that's without holding Control now. My hand's away. I can undo a change. And if I keep compressing Control X, then U, I'll keep undoing stuff. The way undo works in Emacs is fundamentally different to Vim. Undoing in Emacs is linear, and in Vim you have like an undo tree. So what that means is if I type stuff now, right? Or actually, let's type actual words to make it easier to see. This is a word. Good. And if I undo that, it's gone. If I now edit something, it kind of overwrites the undo tree if this were Vim, because I've made a change, gone back on that change, then edited again, and sort of gone down a new path, right? Because I've gone back a change, then gone down a new change. It's like, it's a different path. In Vim, you will have to navigate the sort of undo tree in order to bring back I forgot what I did, but anyway, I'll find out. Because in Emacs, you don't have to navigate the undo tree. It didn't overwrite a change or make a new path, because every change in Emacs is linear. Therefore, I can undo the change which was an undo, right? So I can do like Control X U and then Control X U again to bring back this is a word. That's what I typed. So yeah, I can do that because Emacs stores history or changes in a linear fashion. So that's pretty cool. What else? The save command. I don't think I've done that. Control XS saves a command. Saves a buffer. My goodness. The Control X, Control S key binding saves a buffer. Control X and then S on its own, I think, saves every buffer in Emacs, but no files need saving now at this time. So yeah, Control X, Control S does the saving of a buffer. What else? There is searching in Emacs, so I can do Control S like word, and it will search for word. It's an incremental search, and Control R does a backward search, like reverse search. That's what it stands for, and it's all incremental by default, which is quite nice. Word, there we go. Control G, that's a really useful one. If I'm in the middle of typing a command or doing a command, doing a key binding, and Control G is pressed during that, it will quit it. It will exit it. It's like escape in Vim, but in Emacs it's Control G. So yeah. Escape, I don't know. I think escape is sort of treated as just another key. It does technically escape midway a command because, yeah, I don't know. I think you have to press it twice. It's a weird one. Control G is the default for quitting stuff in Emacs. Okay, so that's it for navigation and sort of other basic commands. When it comes to sort of actions on text, there are a bunch. You have Control K to kill a line, or more precisely, kill from where the cursor is at until the end of the line. So if I go here to the, whoopsie daisy. Oh, I'm using Vim Commands, or a mixture of the two. Control G, Control G, Control G. There we go. Control P to go up. Alt F to go forward one word, and then Control K. This allows me to delete from the cursor to the end of the line, and so I've deleted all that stuff. The notion of killing in Emacs is very important, because in Vim you have the concept of yanking and putting, and the concept of a register in Vim, which I did not touch on, is the same idea as your clipboard, right? It's where you put copied or yanked text in the case of Vim, and store it so it can be pasted or put in the case of Vim. Before I go on, actually, I'm just going to charge my laptop. Whoops. By switching on the socket. There we go. Okay, good. So yeah, that's all in Vim. In Emacs, there is no yanking, or well, there is yanking, but it's different. There is no sort of register for copied or cut text or anything like that. There is a kill ring. This is a ring or set of all the things you have killed, all the text you've killed, more precisely. So if I do Control K now, which kills this line because I'm at the beginning of the line, and then do Control Y to yank it back, it will paste it back or yank it back here, because this is a word is in the kill ring. And I can keep doing that with Control Y, and it will just keep doing it. And I can go to the beginning of the line with Control A and press Control K again to delete the whole line, which I just did. And as you can see, it can be quite quick. So yeah, that's that. Also, you have the concept of marking. This is like visual mode in Vim, or like you're visually selecting stuff. If I do Control Space, that activates the mark in Emacs. So if I move with my cursor anywhere, I am sort of moving this region. If I go forward a bit, it's like, yeah, it's like I'm in visual mode in Vim, basically. So wherever my cursor goes, it's going to select, like, from where I started selecting until where my cursor is. And yeah, that's it really. But there is no like line equivalent, like there's no visual line mode, I think, or anything like that. You have kind of block select, which is, if I were to hazard a guess in trying to remember this, I think it's Control Shift Space. No, that's sorry, that's that's my system's input method changer. Yeah, that's definitely not it. No, I think it's Control Alt Space or Control Meta Space. Yeah, no, hang on. Wait a minute. No, it's not that. What is it? Oh, it's Control X Space. Yeah. Rectangle mode. That's what they call it. So if I go down and across, it's going to be selecting that rectangular region. Seems to do it in a, different sort of way to Vim. Like you can, even though my cursor is in blank space, that there's no space there or anything like this. I'm in a bit of the file that should not exist. So it kind of works on this rectangle in a bit of a different way. But if I go down, oh, whoops, that's capital N, not Control N. Let's go down here. Let's go down here and go back a word. Yep. And activate rectangle mode for selecting region, which is Control X, release, space. Good. I can now go down a line and forward a couple characters and then hit backspace and it will delete it. I can undo that, and also because the region technically is still marked, it's still set, it's just you can't see it. I can also do Control K and that no, that wouldn't delete it. My bad. I can do Alt W and that should like copy the region, and then if I do Control Y, no, it does a separate thing. It's like anyway, where the mark is set is very important, because if you go up here and then do a command that acts on a marked region, it will use the previous position of that mark. So that's just one thing to look out for, but that's, I guess, going into too much detail. But anyway, Anyway, that's the whole concept of the kill ring. So I talked about Alt-W just then. What Alt-W does is puts a region in the kill ring without killing it. So if I go into mark set, or marking region, I guess mode, I don't know. If I start to mark the region and then move forward, go forward like a couple words, there we go, and do Alt-W, I have added this selected or regioned text, or selected the text in the region, such that now it is in the kill ring, but I haven't killed it. So therefore I can hit enter and Control Y to yank it back from the kill ring into the buffer, like pasting, right? Yanking in Emacs is pasting, but in Vim, yanking is copying. Okay, good. So Control XU, Control XU, Control XU, Control XU, Control XU. You can see this will take a while. So there is a concept in Emacs for repetition. It's prefixed by Control U and then a number, let's say 10. And now I can invoke the Control XU command. So Control X and U will undo 10 times because I've prefixed it with Control U and then a number, right? In Vim, this is the same as giving a number before a command, right? So yeah, that's it. What else? What else do we have? Yeah, Control W. Control W does the same thing as Alt W, except it actually kills the text and adds it to the kill ring. So Control W, there we go. And now Control Y, I've added that stuff. Okay. Good. Good. So let's undo that. So again, I can do, what was it? I don't know. It will be something like 10. No, not 10. Sorry, that's Vim. That's Vim. Control U, 10. Control X, U. And yeah, you see I've undone most of that. Okay, good. Then what else is there? Control O just adds a new line after the cursor, so I can do that a couple times. Control K will get rid of each new line like that. What else? We have Control D and Meta D, and I think that's it, really. We have Control D, which acts as delete, and Meta D, or Alt D, which acts as like delete the word after the cursor. The equivalent is like Alt backspace, which is like your Control backspace in a regular text editor. So that's quite intuitive. But yeah, I think that's it really. In terms of other commands that you can invoke in Emacs, the really niche ones won't have a like key binding for them, but they will have probably a macro. So if I select this region here by doing Control space, Control E to select the whole line, and if I do Meta X or Alt X and then type Morse region, I can put into Morse code this region of text like that, right? It's quite a niche thing to do, so it doesn't have its own key binding, but it does have a macro. And if I do Alt X tab, you will see you have all of these commands available to you in the sort of command or macro prompt using Meta X. All of this stuff, all of which I believe has a key binding as well, right? No, sorry. All of which contain those operations which are already part of the default key binding set within Emacs. In other words, not all macro has a key binding. No, not all macros have key bindings, but all key bindings are macros under the hood. Okay. So yeah, that's it. There's obviously a bunch of commands, bunch of macros. You can see here that these commands have key bindings, specifically Control H, Control C, and these commands don't seem to have key bindings. Okay. Good. All that's done, I can do Control X, Control S, and that saves this buffer. And now I can go on to the buffer and window management, but not before showing you the Emacs keyboard, or the keyboard that Emacs was developed on. So Richard Stallman developed Emacs in the MIT AI labs. And I think in the MIT AI labs, they primarily used keyboards like this one, if not this specific type of keyboard. Now, this keyboard has Control, Meta, and Shift on the bottom left side, and on the right-hand side, the bottom right-hand side, the same keys, Shift, Control, and Meta here. The Meta is a bit, moved away from the Control compared to the left side, but it's all there in basically the same configuration. That is why Emacs uses and abuses Control, Meta, or Alt, and Shift. This is why, because they were all there on both sides of the keyboard. Now in the modern era, unfortunately for Emacs, Alt on the right-hand side is usually a kind of different Alt. It's Alt greater or Alt GR. And this has different behavior and is usually interpreted differently to left Alt. Therefore, if you are using a modern keyboard and you try and use Alt greater on the right-hand side to do commands in Emacs that require pressing the Meta key, it will probably not work because that key press is treated as something different to Meta. Cool, but this is just a note. I mean, this is why Emacs key bindings are the way they are. They come from this keyboard or keyboards that are very similar to this. So yeah, I think that's good to know. It just makes you appreciate it a bit more, I think, and makes you realize it's not that arbitrary. It's, well, it is kind of arbitrary, but there is a reason why you have Control, Shift, and Meta being used a lot in Emacs. Okay. Now we can go into the buffer and window management of Emacs. So I've got one buffer open here now. If I do Control X, Control F, I can find a new file. I'm going to open the 2.txt we had before. Here it is. And yeah, I can just navigate it as normal. It's, it's all the Emacs commands I just talked about before. I can jump between paragraphs with Meta, Shift, open and close curly brace. And yeah, that's it. I can scroll with Control V, Alt V, all the good stuff. So I've switched to a new buffer because I've opened a new file. 1.txt, the buffer still exists here. And the good thing about Emacs by default is if I make a change and want to switch a buffer, I don't have to save the changes by default. In Vim, you can override this behavior, but in Emacs, this is the default behavior. But anyway, I'm switching buffers right now by pressing Control X left arrow key or Control X right arrow key. That will take me to the next or previous buffer. So that's how I'm switching between 1 and 2.txt. You can see in the bottom left the name of the buffer or the file I'm editing. This is 2, this is 1, and it was 2, now it's 2, now it's 1, now it's 2. You can do a similar thing to Vim, where you can specify the name of the buffer and switch to it that way by doing Control X B, not Control X, Control B, but Control X B, and then give the name. You can see by default it will switch to 1.txt, so if I do nothing and just press enter, it will do that. I can specify the name by giving it, 2, let's say, and maybe tab completing it, but I can also just give 2 here because there is no other buffer beginning with 2. So if I hit enter, it will take me, oh, never mind, wow, okay, whoopsie daisy. It does not behave the same as Vim. It actually creates a new buffer called 2. Let's delete this buffer. Okay. So yeah, that's a way to switch between buffer, is specifying the name, but you can tab complete the name if you don't want to type it all and if it's a unique name. Like that. There we go. So yeah, those are the primary ways of switching quickly between buffers. You can also invoke the command to show a list of all the buffers by doing Control X, Control B. It opens it in a new window. Let me zoom out a bit here actually. Yep, it opens it in a new window. So the top window is the file, 2.txt. The bottom window is this sort of buffer list window, and is itself a buffer list buffer, right? So if I do Control X O, that will make me switch to the other window. That's why it's O. And yeah, you just cycle through windows by pressing that key binding. I can then go down here and select the buffer I want. So I want 1.txt. Or actually, let's go to GNU Emacs, the main welcome screen. There it is. Good, so you can also switch buffers that way, but to list them all, Control-X, Control-B, right? To refresh this list, you can press G if you've closed any buffers since the last time you've invoked this list, because I think when you invoke this list, it will just recall the existing buffer that holds this list. But you can see that it does not include this buffer in the list of buffers, which is a bit annoying, although I can understand why it doesn't do that. So, therefore, you just have a list of all the buffers. You can switch them, switch between them, switch between windows, which I'll touch on in a bit. But yeah, that's really it for switching buffers. When you want to kill a buffer, however, if I do Control-X-O to go up here, I can do Control-X-K, and that will kill the buffer. You can also specify the buffer if it's not this one with the up and down arrow keys, if you don't want to kill the buffer that you're on, but I do in this case, so therefore I'll just press enter. I've edited it so it complains, but I'm like, yeah, I don't need those changes, so I won't save those changes. Okay, so now only 1.txt remains. I can also go down to the bottom window, which contains the buffer list now. But you'll see 2.txt is still there, but I killed it. And this goes back to what I said about the buffer list not refreshing automatically. So to refresh it, you press G within the buffer list, and to go down, you can press N and P. Like Control N and Control P, they do the same thing really, but you don't have to press Control. But another way of deleting buffers is marking a buffer for deletion like here, and then pressing X to execute that, and you can see it deleted the buffer. And because I deleted it from within the buffer list, it automatically refreshes. Okay, but I want to delete the buffer list now, so I can do Control-X, K, enter. Done, it's gone. That's pretty much all the buffer commands, buffer navigation commands, and all that sort of thing. So now we got window management, window navigation. I've touched on switching between windows, that's Control-X-O, right? Here I've got two windows showing the same buffer, so I'm going to switch buffer, so it's a bit clearer as to what I'm doing. Here I'm in the scratch buffer. This is just a general sort of scratchy note-taking buffer. And I can do Control-X2 to split horizontally. I can do Control-X3 to split vertically. And I can do that as much as I want, but within the limits of the screen size. So there we go. I tried to split, I think, horizontally, and it complained. The screen is too small for splitting. There we go. I can't do it. But I have got a decent number of windows. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 here. No, yeah, 4. If I want to delete a window, I do Control-X0. Okay, so that deletes the window I'm on. If I want to delete all other windows but keep the one I'm on, so let me switch this buffer. There we go. If I want to keep this window containing the welcome screen, but get rid of all other windows, and in this case that's just the window at the bottom there, then I can press Control-X1. Those are your main window navigation commands. And that's it really. I think there's not much more to it. Next, we have file navigation and management and terminal access from within Emacs. So, file navigation is carried out by invoking the dired command or mode. Now, before I actually touch on that, there is another concept within Vim called modes. So if I open the 1.txt file again and go then to flyspell mode by typing the flyspell mode macro command, I have activated flyspell. This is the spelling on the fly mode, so that you can like check your spelling in words, in the words in your buffer. If you're writing prose, if you're programming, of course, you might not want this, but anyway. The funny thing is, this acts on words which your cursor passes. So you can see that I'm leaving a trail of red lines because I'm moving my cursor down and it's spell checking each word as my cursor goes past it. If I want to do the whole buffer, if I want to spell check the whole buffer by in one go, then I can do this. Fly spell buffer. My goodness, I'm slow at typing today. There we go. So it's fly spelled the whole buffer, and you can see a bunch of red lines. It's because all of this which I typed is gibberish. There we go. So that's that. Good. But when I invoked fly spell mode, what I actually did was add a layer of functionality onto the existing buffer. And you can see that I've added this mode by the bottom where I've got fly here. I've also got text mode. This is because I'm editing a text file. So Emacs loads text mode, which supplies typical functionality for text files, which is like navigation, movement, all the standard stuff. Yeah, it's not very exciting. But there are maybe a couple of things you can do in text mode that I don't know about, but it's going to be fairly straightforward. Actually, there's the menu at the top. I didn't actually talk about the menu, but when you're in a special mode, you can access specific menu items. If I type F10, I get access to the menu. But there's a text part as well. Oh wow, so you can center a line and paragraph and region in text mode. These are the features of text mode. The features of fly spell mode include spell checking and all of that. These are the functions of text mode. Okay, I'm just going to have a bit of water. Hydration. Okay, good. So there are actually functions in text mode that are not accessible by default in any other mode. There we go, pretty cool. I can escape to get out of that menu. Good, so the menu is also pretty good, worth noting. If you're starting out with Emacs, this menu will probably help you a fair bit. So yeah, cool. Just had to clear my throat there, and obviously you don't have to hear that, so there we go. Good. So now we've covered that, the next thing I can move on to is the idea of DRED mode. So I'm going to save that and then kill this buffer, go back to the welcome screen, and then type Control-X D. This invokes the DRED mode, DRED command, and I can supply a directory. I can supply any directory I want, but this is defaulting to the home directory, which is ~/ right? Obviously on a Linux machine, which I'm running at the moment. If you have Windows, I think it will still map to, oh no, I've used Emacs on Windows. It gives you the same idea of it. It's like home, users, whatever it is. So it points to your home directory by default. Good, I can open that and move down in this buffer and all of that, and it's like I'm in an Emacs text file, but it's non-editable. If I try and type text, like well, actually don't try and type random keys, because in this buffer every key kind of now has a special function. I can type the plus sign, I think, to create a directory. Yep, there we go. Let me do Control-G to exit that. I can do various other things to rename files and all that sort of thing. It's similar to Netrw in that respect that Vim has, where each button is a command or a, invoking an action on a file. Okay, good. But anyway, the output of DRED is actually the same as ls --LA. So that's why you see all this other stuff, permissions and was it owners, users, groups, that sort of thing, and all the timestamps. It's the same as if I just went in another terminal and did ls-al and zoomed in a bit. There we go, right? It's just copying the output. So you can edit the way DRED shows your files by editing a specific variable in Emacs, and the way to do that is invoking the customize variable option. There's a couple of things. You can customize variables or customize options and a couple of other things, but they offer you a way to interactively edit the settings of Emacs. And you can also have the option of adding those settings to be permanently saved for the next time you enter Emacs. Okay, but anyway, this is a fully fledged file manager in much the same way as Netrw in Vim is a fully fledged file manager. But as opposed to Netrw, which seemed to be a bit weird in terms of how it was treated, Dired in Emacs is 100% bufferfied. It is a buffer. You can see it there, right at the top. Dired by name is the name of the buffer. And you can see it's opened me onto my home directory there, the ~/. If I go into any sort of folder or directory, let's go into .vim, there we go, and then go to the other window by doing Control-XO, and then G to refresh, you'll see I have another buffer now. It's my .vim folder, which I'm looking at through Dired. So every folder you visit, every directory you visit in Dired will be treated as a new buffer. And it can be quite annoying. You can collect a lot of buffers this way, but what it means is that if you think, oh, hang on a minute, I didn't want to go here, I want to go back, you can just switch buffers. So if I do Control-XO and do Control-X left, I'm back to where I am in my home directory. Control-X right takes me back to .vim. I can just close this with Control-XK and all of that. But all of this behavior you can edit. You can make it so that you press A, I think it is, to go into a directory but not create a new buffer for that directory. And let me just refresh the buffer list here. And that's it. A fully fledged file manager in Emacs. Good. So let me kill that and do Control-X1 and kill that. Good. The next thing you can do is invoke a set of terminals within Emacs. In fact, you have shells and terminals. Shells are, I guess, strictly speaking, only shells. Shell lets you talk to the default shell of your system. In this case, it's bin bash for me, or the bash shell. And eShell invokes the Emacs shell, which is separate to bash, but still contains a lot of common commands with bash. But what that means is, basically, you can't do a lot of visually interactive stuff with a shell. In fact, you can't really do any visually interactive programs or enter visually interactive programs with a shell because it's not actually emulating a terminal screen. Therefore, you need a terminal, which is why you have term, ANSI term, and vterm. Vterm, which is the terminal mode which gives you the most capability of displaying constantly updated screens. In other words, ncurses environments, things like htop, things even like Vim, and a few others. I can't think of others at the moment, but all those kind of interactive programs that keep updating the screen of the terminal, you can view those from within an Emacs terminal mode, but it's only vterm that I know of that has this functionality. ANSI term and term can do it, I think, to a very limited extent, if at all. I'm not too sure. Good. So an example of what it looks like, I'm going to go into eShell and do ls, and it does ls. That's a standard Emacs shell command. It's got a bunch of other commands. I don't know how to... Would help be a command? Yeah, okay, yeah. So doing the help command invokes the Emacs help. So yeah, that's pretty interesting because it's not a bash command, obviously, right? So if I do Control-G to exit that, it's an eShell command. So that's that. None of your bash aliases will work here. You have to, type all eShell commands. If I do term now, I get the option of running a shell program within the terminal emulator, and I can do, all the standard terminal stuff. And I can split the screen. Oh, yeah, wrong key press. In term, you have to do Control-C instead of Control-X. It's just a thing. It's just a thing. You just get used to these sort of quirky notes of Emacs or Vim. And yeah, anyway. So I've got a terminal open there. I do Control-XO to go down to it. I've got two windows open, different buffers. But this terminal is very much a buffer. If I go to the other window and do Control-X, Control-B, you'll see this terminal as a buffer. Okay. So yeah, that's it. I mean, there's not too much there. It's pretty straightforward. I exit that and do Control-XK. Yep. And then to exit Emacs, I don't think I even covered that. It is Control-X, Control-C. That's it. That's it. So yeah, I think that's hopefully a good introduction to what Emacs looks like. And yeah, good. The final couple things I want to note is those of, well, the final things are sort of customization and server-client functionality. Customization, in much the same way as Vim, if I ls-a, you can see all of my files in my home directory, but you'll also see Emacs, my .emacs file, and .emacs.d. If I tree with level, let's say level 1, my .emacs.d folder directory, you will see that it's got this stuff inside of it. It's just operating in very much the same way as your .vim directory. It's storing all the plugins you download, all the extra packages you download, and any other bits and bobs that you want to keep, right? But the place where you actually specify the settings you want to be run every time you enter Emacs, all of those are stored in your .emacs file. So if I do emacs.emacs, it will bring up the GUI Emacs in my configured Emacs. And it'll also show here my Emacs config. Now, again, like my Vim config, it's just a lot of small things about the behavior of Emacs, like not showing the startup screen or welcome screen, not showing the toolbars. I don't really like them. They take up too much of the screen. And yeah, specifying the cursor type, doing winner mode. What is that again? Oh yeah, that's to switch or save window orientations or configurations. So if I have 3 windows split, I can sort of undo changes to those windows. So if I close a window, I can bring it back up, and it should probably, I think, be viewing the same buffer that it was before, something like that. So yeah, I got that. I've got, oh, this is nice. Yeah, this is my sort of autocomplete sort of function for any kind of prompt within Emacs. So if I do Alt-X, I will automatically get this autocomplete visual sort of incrementally completable list of stuff. If I type fly spell mode, you'll see all the options for a fly spell. Fly spell word, mode, buffer, region, prog mode, whatever that is, I don't know. And yeah, it's really, really handy, especially for navigating files in Dired. You can start Dired in a directory that you can navigate to with this autocomplete function. So if I do Control-XD, again, I can view all the files in my directory and press enter to tab complete them in a visually interactive sort of way. But this is all here by default. You just have to enable the mode. And yeah, should be good. Yeah, this is all Lisp, by the way, eLisp. So comments are : and so yeah, that's it really. I mean, all the other stuff is just small stuff. I don't know. Yeah, making sure you can scroll in a terminal within Emacs, making sure matching parentheses are shown, making sure tabs are spaces, and yeah, that's it. When it comes to settings that you edit from within Emacs, then you have also the option of interactively setting those settings. And when you do that, what Emacs actually does is add those settings into specific sections of your .emacs config file, which is this one for me. And that's why you have these 3 distinct regions with comments. These custom set faces up here are to do with like colors and things like that, fonts, all that sort of thing. I keep on pressing escape because I think I'm in visual mode in Vim. I'm not. So I've got to press Control G. There we go. And this stuff here is custom set variables. So not just color schemes and all that, but things like my color. Oh, wait, sorry. Wait a minute. Things like my theme. Not, well, you could say color scheme, but anyway, my theme. But also how I want Dired to list my files. That's changed here. That's set here. Also specifying the loading of packages that I have installed. And these are what these are here. YAML mode and Markdown mode. They don't come with Emacs by default, so I just installed them and added them here. And also this bit at the end is about adding a package repository to Emacs so that you have all those downloadable packages available to you. And the way you access the repository that you specify here, in this case it's Melpa, you can also add Elpa without the M, and a couple of others, I think. But you can access this sort of package installing functionality quite easily with meta x package install. And that's it. You press enter then, specify the package like vterm, then hit enter and it will install it. In the case of vterm, I think it has to compile some stuff from source, so there's a couple of other stages there, but usually you just put in the package name, press enter, and it will evaluate the elisp, which comprises the whole package. Every package is just a bunch of elisp that Emacs can evaluate. Therefore, when you install a package, you're saving those elisp files and evaluating them, but there might be some additional things like the C source code for vterm, because it's such a efficient way of interacting with a terminal in Emacs. You have to build it from source and compile it so that you can get that really quick and snappy terminal interaction. Okay, so Control G gets me out of that, but that's my whole config. It's not really that special. I don't install many packages, again, like Vim. Yeah, that's it. So I can exit this with Control X, Control K, kill this buffer, and then I can do Control X, Control C. Good. Next, server client functionality. This is really cool. So if I clear that and I start the Emacs daemon, which is its sort of server, it will give me a bunch of stuff, but it's basically just saying, here we go, I'm starting the Emacs server, the Emacs daemon. Therefore, I can access Emacs as a client or from a client by doing this. -nw starts an Emacs client with no window. That's what NW means. And I think if I didn't say this before when I started Emacs in the terminal, that's what it means, no window. So I'm not providing it with -q, so it is going to use my config when I start this client now in the terminal. Okay, so I've started it up. You should notice it's a lot quicker. This is because it didn't have to start the instance of Emacs because it was already started. It just attached to that instance, which is the Emacs server, using the client. So it's a different dynamic. What you can do though is start more than one client to the same, connect more than one client to the same server. So if I edit this, here we go to another workspace or desktop and invoke the GUI Emacs client, you will see it starts up with exactly the same view of the buffer. And that's pretty cool. I can edit the text here, blah, 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 blah. I can zoom in and edit more text. And if I go to the other Emacs client, it's all here. It's all here. It's because it is not editing two separate buffers. It's editing the same buffer run by the same instance or server of Emacs, but connecting to it from two different places. And I can change buffers in this client and go back to the other client, but I'm still viewing the same or previous buffer, right? Compared to the other client. So these clients are all independent, okay, but they're accessing the same buffers, the same bits of memory as each other because they're all accessing one collection of these buffers on the Emacs server. Cool. Okay, good. The other good thing about this is I can press Control-X, Control-C to get out of that client, and I can press Control-X, Control-C to get out of this client. So now you might be thinking, oh, all hope is lost. You've deleted your Emacs clients, therefore all the file edits you've done are gone. No, I can, I can start up the Emacs client again, and it will bring me the same buffer because the server never died, only the Emacs client. So this is cool for saving changes and also accessing Vim from, no, oh my goodness. If I keep saying Vim or Emacs in the wrong context, do forgive me. It's quite a long video, but anyway. I can also access Emacs from several different places on my machine, different workspaces, whatever, different terminals, different terminal instances, whatever. But it's the same instance of Emacs that I am ultimately accessing. This is also useful because only in the GUI form of Emacs, the GUI interface of Emacs, do you have very consistent sort of, what's the word? You have a very consistent interaction with the system clipboard. So if you're in the terminal client and you're doing all this stuff and you're like, oh, I want to copy all of this stuff here to my system clipboard, what you would usually do is actually just drag with your mouse here. And well, I can't do it now because I've set Emacs to sort of extern mouse compatibility mode, whatever it's called. It actually selects as if I'm clicking on a GUI. But anyway, if I select here and try to do Control-C or whatever to get it into my system clipboard, it won't work. It won't work. If I yank this text, if I Alt-W this text and just check it's been Alt-W'd. So it's been added to the kill ring, but it has not been added to my system clipboard. If I open another text editor and try and paste it, it would not work. Okay, so let's do this and let me zoom in and copy that. I've copied this text now, so I will paste this text. It's in the system clipboard. If I go back here and press Control-Y to yank that stuff again, you can see it's actually yanking what I put in the kill ring before, but it's not going to be pasting with Control-V that same stuff. But only in the GUI, if I do client, Emacs client, only in the GUI can I actually do the copying of text which adds it to my system clipboard. So now I can press Alt-W, then go to the other text editor here that I had open, Control-A delete, and press Control-V. It will paste it here as if I sort of pasted it from Emacs, right? So that's one use I use the Emacs client for, but obviously it's quite rare that you have to do this because you can just open up the file and copy it from there anyway. But yeah, it's there if you need it. And really the main feature is probably just the fact that you can not worry about closing Emacs and not saving your changes, or have the availability of accessing the same instance of Emacs from all those, any different place on the same machine. But yeah, that's it. I will do Control-X-C here, and do I have another client here? Yep, Control-C, no, Control-X, Control-C, and I can just open another client because I just remembered I have to kill the server. So I can do that by doing Alt-X, kill Emacs. Good. So now if I try to go into a client, it won't work. It will complain. There is no server running. Okay, so now we are at the end of this section. It's been a while. It's been a long, long while. But if I were to show you everything, absolutely everything that Vim or Emacs could do, we would be here for years and maybe decades, because there is so much more that Vim and Emacs can do that I cannot show you here and now. Things like searching for text within the buffer. Things like, oh man, doing cursor edits with more than one cursor. You can edit text with more than one cursor and like specify where the other cursor is. I mean, yeah, there's all sorts you can do. You can connect to remote servers from within Emacs or within Vim, I think. And so it's endless. It's pretty much endless. And again, I do want to apologize if I've been mixing up my words here. Hopefully you can understand what I've said from the context if I have made any mistakes. But again, because this video is so long, yeah, I just hope that you can bear with those mistakes. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you join me for the next section where I will be comparing both sets of these features from Vim and Emacs. So yeah, thank you very much.